Hey everybody, wanted to come on and just talk a little bit about the new pulse and the new heartbeat that we're really, many of us are syncing up to right now, and kind of what we're experiencing as this download is floating through. And I'm in the middle of unpacking my own experience of this new beat of the drum and the new call. And it's about syncing up with the planetary body. It's syncing up with the heartbeat of Gaia, which, of course, is a reflection of the heartbeat of the soul, and what it means to follow the soul's trajectory and the soul calling, regardless of the man-made limitations and expectations of humankind and where society is right now. So part of blueprinting this experience of following the planetary pulse that many have been following for a while, and it's the call of the soul, it's the call of, it's the same call we see in the book The Alchemist. It's the dreamer, the revolutionary, um, the imaginary that follows into the heart of its soul. And when we begin to sync with the planetary body, what happens is there's this nudge or this burn, this inkling to go when it's not quite comfortable in the man-made constructs. So we look at the limitations of, contracts, leases, work, schedules, all having to do with time. And, at the end of the day, when it comes to time, when we look at linearity and, the Gregorian calendar and having to meet the expectations of time, the call of the soul isn't always going to be able to sync up with the time of man and the expectations. And so a part of us now syncing with this new pulse of the planetary body and the reset and way showing this is that when everyone says don't go or it's inappropriate timing for humanity, it's perfect timing for the soul. And a lot of this, with working with the light and syncing up with this new rhythm, is that we're going to be asked to cut things short, or to begin to move or change, begin to operate in a new format that's completely out of sync with humanity, and having to be okay with that. Because once again, it's like living in a world in another world. A part of this syncing up with the planetary body, the rhythms of the soul and the rhythms of the universe and the rhythms of the heart of Gaia, is that not all of humanity is completely synced up to that yet. And it's going to occur where everyone's synced up and we're back to the natural organic rhythms. But a part of this is recognizing that syncing up with the organic structures in an inorganic world is that you're going to be different. And so part of that is accepting the fact that, you might not wake up at the same time as everyone else. You might work at different hours. You might be out of sync with your family or your friends or your loved ones, and having to just trust that the beat of the drum that you're marching to, others are. And it might not be in your direct vicinity, but we're being called to live in a completely different format than many others are right now, because we're in the midst of blueprinting that, and we're in the midst of syncing up to that. So part of this is that our lives may not make logical or rational sense, and the places and spaces in which you're being called to and the choices that you're being called to make at a soul level just might not sync up 100% with everyone else. And you might not understand why you're getting that call, or you're feeling that inkling, or you have that urge or that burning sensation to be in a certain place or to change in some way, shape, or form. But as soon as you start to take those action steps, as soon as you start to get the ball rolling, it unravels more and more. You can see the depths and the layers of why it's occurring. We can call this synchronicity. You're now in tune with the soul, in tune with the highest version of you. You're becoming in tune with the planetary body. You're becoming in tune with this reset. And so that means that we stand out. That means that people might not completely understand why this is occurring. And that means that sometimes you have to make choices that don't rationally make sense, but at the soul level it does, you know. So for us, for instance, it's the call to move. And granted, time, linearity, man-made constructs are what have created limitations for us to be able to do this, especially when it comes to contracts such as a lease. Okay, well, here's the thing. This is a soul calling. And with a soul calling, it's always backed by spirit. And it's always backed by the universe, especially if it's important with what you are doing. And so because of that, there's a level of trust and faith in the process that you're going to be supported no matter what. And the answers will come right on time. So, for instance, with us, with these decisions that we've been getting called to do, the answers for everything that we wanted to do didn't come right away. It's not like we knew how the entire trajectory was going to go, but what we were asked to do was just to take that first step, to make that call and to make that choice. And once you make that choice, the rest arrives. Think of it like this download, okay, of everything that you need to do. It's like it's sitting there. It's on the desktop. But the first choice you have to make is to open it. And as soon as you start to scan through the files, the information trickles in. It's a soul knowing. And you start to get led to these places, these spaces, and these people to ask about these things that you've known forever that have this information. And this is just, you know, my interpretation of it right now with what I'm unpacking. And you'll start to call forward that tribe and those people that have information for you or have a knowing, and you now begin to tap into a source of consciousness, a resource that was otherwise unavailable if you hadn't made the choice and the decision to start to go. And a lot of this is the recognition to trust, because I've had people come in that say, Corey, you just need to do this, just trust. And there has been so much fear in the way of being able to just go. There's been so much doubt, so much worry. But then I finally got fed up enough. And I just said, I'm going to do it. And I made the decision. I started to create the plans. And I started to put the ball into motion. And all the pieces started to come together. Because once again, the trajectory and the path, the divine plan has already been laid out. But a part of this process is trusting the divine plan and just beginning to go and beginning to move. And that motion can be energetic. It doesn't have to be physical. Some of the motion is just making the decision and starting to reach out and starting to discover what is out there for you. And in that process, you begin to unlock more and more and more of what your true soul's calling is and your true mission. And you feel the alignment. The issue is that this alignment, this planetary heartbeat that you are now following, the soul's heartbeat, might not align with others' heartbeats and the souls of other people, because they might not still be 100% in tune with that. But you got to be okay with that and trust and know that the timing and the alignment is always perfect, just the way it is. And in this process, you're going to discover those that are in that rhythm with you, that are in that heartbeat. And you begin to find your true tribe, and you begin to find those people that are dancing at the same rhythm you are, and you can enjoy the dance together. Because you're never really alone with your decisions. You might just be out of sync with your current environment, ready to get called into a new collective body that is in the exact rhythm that you are. But a part of the trust and the faith is allowing yourself to move into that new realm, that new level of consciousness. We can think of it as existing in a different world compared to the rest of the collective or the rest of the people in your environment. And so it can feel lonely. But the focus so much needs to be on what is calling you home versus what you're leaving. It's the focus on the new versus the old, because your collective, your people, your tribe are waiting for you in that new rhythm and in that new beat. But you have to start dancing to that rhythm to sync up to those people and to find those resources, whatever it may be for you. Okay. And think of it like a new level of consciousness. Once you start to move into that collective, you now begin to access the potentialities and access the thought forms and the inspiration and the knowledge that you need in order to acquire all the necessary resources to land in your new. But a part of that is having to disconnect from the old collective conscience and to be able to start to walk in and allow the new collective conscious to take you home, the new unity consciousness. And we can think of these as pockets of consciousness. So, the musicians have their own collective conscious where they're sharing downloads and information and packets of information about new songs and new inspiration. We can look at it with the builders. We can look at it with the nomadic tribes. We can look at it with those that are completely living off the grid. We can look at it with the business people. We all have in this big body, this big collective consciousness, we have little pockets of consciousness with information that are tailored completely for your mission, for your truth, and for your knowing and your calling. And so a part of this, so like for us, for instance, it's to live a little bit more of a nomadic life. And so because of that, we started to say yes to that life. And we began to start to access that level of consciousness. And then we started to unlock more information that was never there before. Because once again, it couldn't be conceived before the action step. The action step needed to be taken to start to move into that collective to be able to access that information and the people with that knowing. And we recognize that there are people directly related to us that have this knowing and have had this knowing for a while. And a part of them showing the way was they went through their experience for a couple of years or for however long to be able to master this new way of living and this new way of life, this accessing the planetary body. So then it was ready for you for when you were accessing this. This is a part of the soul's journey, is when we do this, we upload these potentialities to others, and the people that are directly behind us or a few steps behind can now begin to access their freedom and their truth. We just need to trust the new sync, the new rhythm, the new heartbeat, because this is the heartbeat of the soul. And a part of that now is having to grieve, letting go of the old way of living. But we have an opportunity to sync up to this new life that has existed for eons, and it's our true organic natural state. And it is different, it's unique, but it's the way that we are meant to live. And so it's really beautiful. And because of that, you begin to feel the call of the ancestors. You begin to sync up more with the creation and sync up more with the divine. And as a result of that, you feel more connected than you ever have. And you recognize that there's something bigger going on than meets the eye. And that's when we begin to now download more trust into the heart space and trust the feeling of the soul's call. Because in that trust and downloading that trust, you begin to have more faith. And because of that, creation now releases more trust in you. It gives you more information and more knowing. And because of that, that feeling that you feel within the spark of creation, that is you, the spark of source, you begin to understand your true innate power and your true innate gifts. And you can now become wowed by the experience. You allow the magic to carry you home. And while this home space and this home place tends to be defined as something external of us, the feeling is this warm sense of being back in the soul and feeling okay in the temple of you and being okay as being the avatar. And recognizing that you're more than just the individuation, you are the entire experience. And so for that, you can show gratitude and discover more and more and more. But this isn't something that can just be rationalized. It can't just be logically known. It has to be felt by trusting the calling and beginning to move in those steps. And of course, a part of my journey has been that I take a couple steps and then I have that moment of silence, that moment of stillness where the doubts and the worries and all those things start to come up. The old programmings, the grieving of the old, the recognizing that you're out of sync with your environment, and it's okay. You have every right to feel those things. You have every right to allow that emotion to arise, especially as we're now stepping into more feeling. But you don't have to stay there. You can let it go. So when it arises, recognize it for what it is. and know that it's okay to feel that. But you have a right to not stay there in that feeling. You have every right as a part of being a divine sovereign being to say that I'm not gonna allow that into my life anymore. I'm not gonna be crippled by fear. I'm not gonna live by certain societal norms. And I'm gonna live the soul's calling. And that means that if other people don't agree or other people don't sync up with my happiness, taking ownership that it's my happiness and I am responsible for my happiness today. No one else is responsible for my happiness. Only I am. And that means that if it's not in alignment with other people's happiness, we begin to now let go of having to meet up to others' expectations, and we focus solely on that self-love and knowing that our eternal happiness within is someone else's happiness out there. And as long as we sync up with that, we will find those people that are in that happiness and will become in sync and in line with those tribe and those places, spaces, and experiences that are going to help us to expand into all that we are and all that we came to be, that are going to assist in our remembrance that we are more than just the temporal, that we're more than just the avatar, that we're more than just the individuation, that there's layers, there's essences, there's aspects of us that extend far beyond this place, space, and time. And in accessing those moments and those aspects and those time frames in which we existed, we begin to understand our true innate power and our true innate abilities and our true innate gifts, and therefore we don't have to live in fear anymore. We can live in utter trust and faith of the soul's calling and the heartbeat of the planetary body, the heartbeat of Gaia, the heartbeat of the universe, the heartbeat of the stars, and we allow ourselves to go home into all that we are. So much love and respect to all of you out there, and I will see you on the other side. Namaste.